Hi. In order to counteract my perfectionism and my need to be liked and accepted, and my fear of showing up online and in real life, today I thought I would sketch something with these nice little colored pencils that my mom got me. Thanks, Mom. And I thought I would just talk about, art and artists and the human experience and vulnerability. So one thing that I really like to do when I'm feeling like I don't like a song that I created, a song that I wrote, or a painting that I made, one thing I like to do is after I create it, I kind of just tuck it away. I forget about it. And then I go back to it maybe like a month or two later. Sometimes it's almost a year later because I really truly do forget about it because I'm always creating new things, and it's easy to just, forget about a sketchbook or something like a sketch that's in my sketchbook. Oh, these are nice. And then what's interesting is that when I come back to it, I see it with new eyes, and I really judge myself less than I did when I created it. And the same thing happens with pictures that I take of myself or that someone takes of me. This has happened so many times where I'll see a picture of myself and I'll be like, oh, I do not look good. I'll think that I look fat, or I'll think that I don't look as pretty in the picture as I think I look in the mirror. Or I'm just, not into it. And then like a year or two will go by, sometimes less time, a few months, but sometimes a year or two will go by, and I'll look at that picture. I'm like, I don't see any flaws. I was so beautiful. And that's a good lesson to learn. Like, for me, I really have to constantly remind myself that I'm perceiving everything through my perspective, and sometimes it's just a lie. There was this great trend on Instagram that I remember where these girls were saying like, oh, squeaky. They were saying like, oh, my best friend or my sister or someone I love, like, I don't love them because they have clear skin. I don't love them because they're at their target weight. I don't love them because they never make mistakes. I love them in spite of, and even maybe because of their flaws, because we're all humans and flaws can be beautiful, but for some reason we're all so hard on ourselves, and we don't give ourselves the same grace and love and acceptance that we do for others. I really love the advice to kind of talk to yourself the way that you would talk to a small child, or that you would talk to yourself at a younger age. Like, imagine that you were the age that you are now and you were sitting next to, say, your 11-year-old self or your 6-year-old self. Like, how would you talk to them? You wouldn't be mean to them, would you? They're just a little child. Yeah, and that little child is still within you. So if you can catch yourself when you want to be mean to yourself, and you can catch yourself and just remind yourself of who you're talking to, I think it will do a lot of good. And I should really take my own advice. If I took my own advice, man, I'd be golden. I'm just drawing lines. I felt a lot of art block in the last year, but especially like the last maybe 4 years. I think I'm just, falling into the comparison trap. Probably the reason behind that is that I'm consuming too much and not creating enough. That's usually the root of most of my issues. When I feel Like I have art block. If I zoom out, I realize like, oh, my actions, like you know what, we're all meant to be creators. We're not meant to be consuming media all the time. And consuming media can be really inspiring, you know? Like when I create art, I want people to consume it in a way, but I also want them to be inspired enough that they go home and they create their own art. I don't want them to just like binge my art. You know, I feel like one of my missions in life, and one of the reasons why I'm here on this earth, is to remind people of their potential and remind people of like their innate ability to create art. By the way, I'm sorry for the road noises. I live on a very busy street, but can't do anything about it. Hopefully you can't hear it. Drives me crazy. But yeah, I've had so many conversations with people throughout my life where, you know, they say, oh, I wish I could draw, but I can't. And I feel so passionate about this. Yes, you can draw. There is no one in the world who can't draw. The cool thing is, and I remember being mind blown when I realized this, the cool thing is that if you have ever drawn something and you didn't like it, that is a sure sign that you're an artist. People have this idea of, oh, an artist must be someone who constantly feels confident in their art that they create and they never doubt themselves and they just know how to do it. They just naturally were born one day and, you know, ever since they can remember, they were good at art and they never had to suffer or like cry over their failures and wonder if they should just give up forever. Like, I'm pretty sure every single artist kind of hates themselves in a way and like hates their art, but that's kind of a harsh way to say it. I hope artists don't hate themselves, but my experience is that, I don't know, I have to, it's like wrestling. Every single time I create art, like I have to wrestle with myself and I have to really put chains around like the voice in my head that tells me I should just give up and I should like get rid of all my art supplies and I should just never make art again because I'm a failure. And then the reason I brought up earlier, like the fact that you should put your art away, is that if you can just take some space between how you're feeling in the moment about your art and how you're going to feel later, if you can just keep yourself from like throwing your art away when you really hate it and you're super upset with yourself, and you can just forgive yourself, put it away, look at it later, I promise you, you will have a different perspective later. And I need to sharpen my pencil. I think, you know, pretty much everyone, when they were a child, they created art in some way. Even if it was just like making mud pies or something, or like drawing with crayons, or like finger painting. I think it would be really beneficial for most adults to return to that form of art making, which is just like the limitless creativity of childhood. If you can try to remember how you created as a child, you probably used to just create for the sake of creating. You didn't create for the sake of selling a painting. You didn't create for the sake of getting better. You didn't create for the sake of impressing others or impressing yourself. Like, I am blessed to have nephews and nieces that I can create art with, and I love it because not only am I so impressed with the way that they see the world and the way that they express themselves with their art, but I'm also impressed with the way that creating art with them changes my whole experience. It's so different from when I'm at home and I'm creating something and I have this like pressure that I put on myself for some reason. And maybe social media is to blame for that. Or maybe I just, have that natural drive to get better. But whenever I'm creating with my nephews and nieces, like I have such low stakes because normally, like if I'm drawing something, they're going to come over and like scribble all over it. And, I just can't be too attached. Or, I just challenge myself to like kind of release the reins a little bit and just see what comes out and see what I create. Like when we're playing with air dry clay, we just make random objects and that's enough. Or we experiment with putting pine cones into the clay and seeing what that looks like. And, like taking random objects from around the house and using the hot glue gun and gluing it onto a paper plate. It's like, what does that look like? What art is that? It's not like, I never spend time when I'm with them, like creating realism style portraits, which is what I tend to create when I'm alone and when I'm at home because, I like that form of art. And I've always been drawn to that. I've always drawn portraits since I was a little girl. But when I was a little girl, my portraits were more of like a style, and I wouldn't normally like look up a picture of a person and try to copy how that person looked and like get it as close to a photograph as I could. I would usually just like start drawing and I would just make a face and make it look cool and just enjoy the process of drawing. And then I would draw really fast and I'd go through like 15 sheets of computer paper. And that was another thing, I wasn't like aware at that time. I was very lucky that my parents bought me art supplies, but half the time I would just draw on like computer paper or like notebooks, like lined notebook paper. And I would use very cheap materials. And now, I'm working, I'm an independent adult, like I'm more aware of how much art supplies can cost. So it's almost like the part of me that is like scared of running out of money kind of like hoards art supplies. And I'm like, well, this canvas costs this much and these paintbrushes cost this much and this paint costs this much. And so, like, Mira, you should really make sure that this painting that you're creating is gonna be worth all that money. I'm like, fuck that. Like, that is not the point of art. I guess, I don't know. Recently I've been challenging myself. Like, I like to draw with my non-dominant hand or draw with my eyes closed and kind of see what comes out. We should all challenge ourselves to release expectations and to return to how we created art as a child. And if you have access to, like if you have a kid or you have a nephew or a niece or a friend who has a kid, you should make plans to go make art with them and see what they create and see what you create and see how it differs. And challenge yourself to make bad art. That's a really good challenge. Try to make something ugly. Try to make something that's ugly and then share it on social media. Seek out rejection. I think I'm just gonna post this video online, even though it kind of scares me because it's so like raw and unedited, and I don't know if I sound like a rambling lunatic, but even if I do, who cares? There's a lot of like stupid videos on social media, and I think the whole point of art, like the thing that draws people to art, is the human aspect of it. Like AI art is really cool, but it's not the same as human art because AI knows about human emotion through studying it, through machine learning, but AI doesn't have emotion, and emotion is what matters. All right, thanks for listening. Bye, love you.